Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine and the best-selling publisher at InspiredLivingPublishing.com. I love conversations with women who are here just sharing the gifts, shining the light, and really illuminating the path for so many coming up behind them. And today's guest, Tess Whitehurst, I've been following for a while. In fact, if you follow Aspire Magazine, I have featured a couple of her books over the last couple of years in Aspire Mag's Top 10 list. So I'm really excited that she's joining me today. Tess is a feng shui expert, intuitive counselor, and the award-winning author of 7 books, including Magical Housekeeping, The Good Energy Book, and The Magic of Trees. She's also the founder and facilitator of the Good Vibe Tribe, an online magical academy and spiritual community. She's appeared on morning shows on both Fox and NBC, and her feng shui work was featured on the Bravo TV show Flipping Out. All the work is focused on creating the life you want and activating your most positive life momentum and flow. You can learn more about Tess and her amazing work at TessWhitehurst.com. Welcome, Tess.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, as I shared, I have been following you for a while. Love your books, love your content, but I love your joyful spirit, right, and how you bring that energy to everything. So that's one of the things that first drew me to you.
Thank you so much.
So I know that you believe that life is magical, right?
Yes,
and that we can all discover that magic. Bring us back to when you first realized that life was magic.
Well, I mean, I think we all know this since we're children, and then we are taught otherwise, but it doesn't diminish the fact that everything is incomprehensibly magical. It's mysterious, it's beautiful. The natural world is powerful. We're powerful. Our emotions, our relationships, every time we feel love for our partner, our family, for beauty we see, it's just all magical. So I don't know if there was a moment. There are moments that I forget and I fall into the illusion of mundane, maybe like when I'm at the bank or the DMV or something.
Oh, yeah, I can see how that could happen.
Right. But that's the illusion. I think it's important to remember that when we feel like things are mundane, that's the illusion. Magic is real.
It's. I believe that to be true because I have a grandchildren in my life, and one that's 17, and now I have a 5.5-year-old. Watching her, she is so connected to earth, the animals, nature, the spirits. Being with her is reminding me of that on an even deeper level. And I was already embracing this truth. Mm-hmm. But when I'm with her, it's resonating on such a soul level. That we are magic. We are connected. We are divine. We have just forgotten.
Right. Yeah, I love that about hanging out with kids. My nephew, it's the same with my nephew. And I think our animal friends, too, help remind us of the fact of everything being magical. It's when you are present in the world that you can experience that.
I had read, and I don't know if I had read it on your website or had heard it in a previous interview, that you knew since you were young, you had intuitive gifts. And did your
Yeah.
family embrace that? Because that's what we're doing with my granddaughter, right? I'm so thankful she was
Yeah.
born into this family. How did your family
Yeah.
embrace it?
Well, they definitely, my parents, as an adult, looking back, I realized that they both have really magical worldviews that they just sort of they didn't teach me overtly, but just sort of by osmosis, I received it. But I think what you read was that my parents report to me, I don't remember this, but apparently I at some point said something that revealed that I saw colors around everyone's heads and shoulders, that it seemed like I just assumed that everyone could see them. And as an adult, I do sometimes see auras with with what seems to be my physical eyes. Most of the time I can see auras with my inner eye, but occasionally I see them with my physical eyes. But apparently when I was a kid, I just saw them all the time.
So did you always, how did you step into this? How did you always stay this path from a young child of following the magic, following the spiritual breadcrumbs, or did it close down for a while and then you discovered it again in adulthood and really embraced it?
You know, that's a good question. I think that I was always looking for and expecting, on some level, always looking for and expecting magic. I didn't find magic as a spiritual path. I didn't really know that that was a possibility as something that could be a spiritual path until I left my small town and went to Pasadena for college when I was 18, 19. But before that, I was always looking for spell books. I was always imagining that, just looking for things that had magical power. I taught myself to read fortunes with a deck of playing cards. I didn't have access to tarot cards or oracle cards. And I did find, when I was in high school, I did find books on Buddhism, and that felt important to me, so I did meditate and study that path until I was able to, I still honor that path too and learn about it and love meditating and love all that wisdom. But the magical path aspect, the crystals, the herbs, the spells, the rituals, the moons, the phases of the moon, that I learned at the age of maybe 18 or 19.
It's beautiful. And when did you incorporate feng shui? Because you're a feng shui consultant, and I've feng shuied my whole house, and I love it. I believe in it. I'm passionate about it. So what was the step or moment that led you to incorporate that into your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, when I was in my mid-20s, I discovered the book Clear Your Clutter with Feng Shui by Karen Kingston. Do you know this book?
Oh, my God, I have it. It's in my bookshelf. I won't part with it. I have a few feng shui books that I've had for many years.
Yeah, okay, yes. I love that book. And I read that book, and I was living in a studio apartment at the time in Hollywood with my boyfriend, a very small apartment, and I was astounded by how much I cleared. I was just like, how was all of that junk in this little space? And I didn't even really think of myself as that cluttery. And then I felt so liberated, so light. Like there were so many possibilities. My mind was so clear. I felt so creative. And it was even though I had been practicing magic and ritual and, working with crystals and all of that stuff for some time, when I worked with something as seemingly mundane as my home and then felt such a palpable energy shift, it was an epiphany for me. And I not very long after that, did a ritual to find my life path. It was missing, we all are always on our life paths, but, direction. I did discover direction, which was to get certified as a feng shui consultant. So I did that in my mid-20s. I went to the Western School of Feng Shui in San Diego, which I loved. And then I started practicing feng shui professionally. And then it wasn't too long after that I started realizing that I could merge. Feng shui is really a path of magic. It's amazing that it has withstood all of these centuries, and it's an intact school of magic. So it was really a great framework for me to start practicing magic essentially professionally. And then I started fusing, the awareness I already had of magic as a spiritual, to set the timer for 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week, call on Archangel Metatron, and then just write. It doesn't matter what you write. Just write something just sit there in front of the computer and write something for 90 minutes. And then it was like, within 3 months, I had Magical Housekeeping was written. So it did definitely start my writing career.
And I'll tell you some of the other books, and I want to talk about that when we come back from a break. Some of the other books, like The Magic of Flowers and then Holistic Fashionista, everything really helps, I say woman, because that's my audience, women elevate the way they see and approach life and their surroundings. So let's talk about that more when we come back from our break. I'll be back in a moment with Tess Whitehurst of TessWhitehurst.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Tess Whitehurst of TessWhitehurst.com. So as you start to merge all of this together, because you offer intuitive counseling sessions, feng shui consultations, workshops, online classes, and you have the Good Vibe Tribe. Is that when you started building your online community?
I had social media, so in a sense I had, those groups of people who were following me on social media, but the Good Vibe Tribe, I started that about a year and 8 months ago, and it was when I started building a group, kind of a core community online.
And Holistic Fashionista. For our listeners, because I've read it, give an overview of what that is, because I love that you tied it into fashion, which I can always use help with.
Thank you. Yes, it's actually Magical Fashionista, same concept as holistic. It's Magical Fashionista, dress for the life you want. And I wanted to write about the power of fashion and getting dressed, because I had a realization that it's its own kind of feng shui. It's a very personal kind of feng shui. It's a kind of feng shui that is very tied to our self-love and our self-care practices. It's something we do anyway. So when we can infuse our self-care routine with intention and with self-love regularly as a practice, it really does become a spiritual practice. And also, we're all altars of the divine, right? So if you think of an altar as being a place where the divine shines through something like a physical location. That's the concept of a temple or an altar. That really is what we are. We're physical beings through which divine energy, divine light, divine consciousness flows and in which it dwells. So for us to decorate and honor the temple consciously is a very powerful thing to do. And it was a really profound realization for me because I think in our culture a lot, it's sort of demoted to something that is supposed to be frivolous. It's like, oh, shopping, and it's not frivolous. It doesn't have to be that. It can be very sacred.
And that's what I loved about the book is you help change a viewpoint, right? Like some women wear things because everyone else is wearing them, even though energetically they're not comfortable in it. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't resonate with them. But why do they do it? Because others say it's in style, but it's not their truth.
Yeah, and maybe they're talked out of what's their truth because supposedly it's not in style. But we're just all so different. We're all so beautiful in our own way, and to get in touch with how that wants to shine through and how we can adorn, our unique energy.
I love that. So thank you for sharing that. Now you have The Magic of Flowers, the book, The Magic of Flowers, as well as The Magic of Trees. And I know from following you and reading your blog that nature's a major part of your life.
Yeah. Yes. Very true. The flowers. I became aware of flower essences. Do you ever work with flower essences?
I haven't personally worked with them, but I know so many women that do in my community.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, like rescue remedy is the most common one, and I think a lot of people think that they're the same thing as aromatherapy, but they're actually something very different. They're the vibration of a flower preserved in brandy and water that is taken internally as a holistic homeopathic remedy for the emotions. And I became aware of these and had such a profound experience with using these vibrational remedies from flowers that, and I already was loving aromatherapy that works with the scent of flowers and just the appearance of flowers in my environment. And I was always wishing that there was a book about the metaphysical properties of flowers that merged all of the different ways you can interact with the floral realm. There's a lot of books about crystals like that, but there weren't many about flowers. There weren't any, like the one I was looking for. So I decided to write one. So that's how The Magic of Flowers came to be. And I got a subscription, a membership to Descanso Gardens, which is a botanical garden in Los Angeles County. And I went regularly to do my research, where I would do meditations and communication actually with the flowers themselves and channel and download the messages I was receiving vibrationally, and then put them in the book and merge them with cultural different sort of folk beliefs and practices from around the world.
In The Magic of Flowers, you share how that our favorite flower reveals a lot about our life path. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, yes, I love this. I love this aspect of flower magic. So if you have a favorite flower, so mine, let's do you. Do you have a favorite flower?
Lotuses are a big one, and Gerber daisies.
Okay, so let's talk about lotuses. So when you connect with, what is it about the lotus that that you love so much. And what I'm talking about here is the emotional response you have to the flower. Can you describe how that flower makes you feel?
Yeah, it came into my life and my awareness 11 years ago. It's now my logo. It's all over my desk, my home. It was like, oh, my God, I'm being invaded by the lotus energy. And I'm drawn. When I look at it, I have one on my desk. In fact, I'm looking at it now. It's this opening and trusting to the divine, right? Because I have an open lotus. That's what it is to me. It's about connecting to the heart and opening and trusting. It was my first feeling, and it's been with me, like I said, 11 years.
Perfect. Okay, so that way that you described the lotus and your emotional connection to it, your emotional response to it, can you see how that is pretty much your life path? Like that's what you like, that really defines what you like to do. You like to share that with other people. You like to express that, right?
It's you know what? It's so funny that you're saying this because the first lotus came into my life. I still have the print. And I was like, oh, my God, I've never been drawn to stuff like this, but I must buy this print. Do you know 7 months later is when I birthed Aspire magazine?
Yes.
The logo came, a lotus, and it has been with me ever since. It was like my need and sacred soul desire of how I wanted to be spoken to as a woman is why I birthed the magazine, to create a publication that would speak to the essence of a woman in the way that I wanted to be connected with. So, oh my God, that is beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
That is pretty amazing. So when they read your book, they can see, like, they can look up their flower.
Well, yeah, and definitely looking it up. Like we can look up lotus in the book and see where that parallels, but it's even more powerful to start. And I feel like this is true with all intuitive work, with interpreting your dreams, with interpreting symbols you're getting from the universe. It's always the most powerful to start with, how do you feel? Like if you had to guess, if you had to describe it yourself. But with flowers, because they're so tied in. I mean, they co-evolved with humans in a way that they are almost literally our idea of beauty. It's like they evolved to be beautiful to us, and they are. And so there are concepts. It's like they're so tied into our concept of all forms of beauty, emotional beauty and physical beauty. So it's just so interesting how it's so intimate to say, what is it about your favorite flower that brings you so much joy? And then there it is. It's just like, that's what you care about in life. It's right there.
That was powerful because as many years as I've looked at the lotus, I never thought about what it was evoking in me. I just knew it was a soul level. I was drawn to it.
Yeah, and it's so neat, and that's amazing because you said it came really quickly when you described the feeling. I thought you had thought about it a lot, but it's a powerful thing to verbalize. So it's like there's a reason why that's your favorite and it's not another flower, and it's always emotional. It's not just like, oh, I like the color or I like the smell. It's like there's something more, if you love it that much, that is tied into a way that it makes you feel an emotional response. So, and I love this with this is symbolic language. We sometimes get tied up in this idea that our language is English or whatever language, human language we speak, but the universe talks to us in symbols. So for us to open up to things like flowers or trees and to say, what's the emotion? What's the feeling? It's a much deeper, non-linear way of communicating.
It is, and it's what it evokes, like that came from when you asked me that question, which I've never been asked before, it was just, the feelings came up immediately. I don't know if it's because the lotus is always in my energy field. I live on a beautiful spring-fed pond that has one small section of gorgeous lotuses that come. And so I've circled my life. They circle my life in my energy field.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that gift of sharing that with me and helping me see.
Oh, my pleasure.
See what was already there.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for doing that with me. It's so fun.
You're welcome. And when we come back from our next break, I want to talk about your new book because I'm a tree girl. Everyone knows, if you follow me on Facebook, I live in the middle of the woods on a spring-fed pond, and how I love to ground myself just by going to sit out in the trees. So when we come back, let's talk about that a little more, Tess. And I'll be back in a moment with feng shui expert, intuitive counselor, and award-winning author, Tess Whitehurst.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Beautiful one, if you're living your life by default and feeling disempowered, disconnected, and disenchanted, it's time to tap into your goddess power and use that divine energy to create the magical life of your dreams. As part of the Goddess Lifestyle Alchemy program, Creatrix Lisa Marie Rosati guides you through the 12 aspects of your life while tapping into the archetypes, the 4 elements, the divine, and practical magic. By connecting to the divine and working with universal laws, your life suddenly shifts from going through the motions and struggles to seeing divine love and purpose in all aspects of your life. If you're ready to design your magical life, visit Lisa at goddesslifestyleplan.com for an abundance of supportive resources.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, you're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and we're having an inspiring conversation today with Tess Whitehurst. So, Tess, a moment ago, right before the break, we were talking about the magic of flowers, but you recently released the magic of trees. Right. And like my honey always says, he goes, oh, my church is out there. I'm heading to the trees. You know, it's 24 years he's been saying that. He just feels grounded in nature. And many years ago, a friend taught me, you know, because we're on our path, we always, you know, we're transforming our energy constantly. I forget what I was going through. It was probably 10 years ago. She said, Linda, go outside, sit down at the base of a tree, lean against it, but allow, you know, the base of your spine to just go into the ground. And I have to tell you, I've been using that for years now.
Yeah.
So in your work with trees and in your research and writing your book, share with us what you discovered.
Well, you know, I know that I knew that I was drawn to write this book. Again, it was like, there isn't a book like this, and there needs to be, and I want one. But trees I started to be really fascinated with them and feeling really connected to them. And then when I wrote the proposal for the book before I wrote the book, and I got a book deal before I wrote it. And then once I started getting into writing it, I was like, whoa, I did not fully comprehend how deeply and in such an ancient way trees are connected to human spirituality across the planet. Every single culture, every continent, I would even venture to say every form of spirituality, human spirituality, has so much to do with trees. It's like a literal just like what you experienced of opening up your spine to connect with the earth energy, but also the crown energy, the branches. It's such a symbol of us rooting down into Mother Earth and reaching up into the cosmos, and that flow of energy that goes both up and down, cleansing us and connecting us to everything. So there's like a version of the tree of life in so many different cultures. A really, really important aspect of human spirituality is trees. And I think we know this too. Everyone knows this. We feel so much more comfortable, most of us, in places with trees.
Yeah, there's something grounding about it. If I have a busy, like if I do a lot of launches for my business because I publish books, so I'm always launching, and everyone knows I'll take my computer outside and work because I'm so surrounded by trees, and it helps me stay grounded so I can birth my projects, right? But it took me many years, Tess, to discover the connection. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I didn't realize, I was so much in my head, I didn't realize that the reason I was feeling good is you keep going back out into nature, Linda. Finally, I started tapping in and just allow my intuition to guide me, and I realized what I need. Sometimes it's the ocean, but I think I chose to live here 17 years ago because I tell everyone I found myself here. The middle of the woods. I'm not in the city. It's a small town. I mean, it's not a town. It is a town. I apologize. It's not a city. But, I mean, it's good size. But I'm in the middle of the woods, surrounded.
Yeah.
Only 6 of us year-round on this water. So talk about Zen. It's Zen. And, of course, I have lotuses. Come on. What more could I ask for? And that's when I found myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a really actually similar landscape. I lived in Los Angeles for many, many years, and now I live in a small town above Boulder, Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains. And so we have mountain streams and aspen and lots of pine trees. And
it brings you peace. Now, when you were, I guess, doing your research for the trees, was it like the other book, The Magic of Flowers, where you went to I forgot the name of it now, the flower center, so you could do your research, or was this more intuitive and guided and conversation yourself with the trees?
This was different. Yeah, there were some trees I was able to be with presently. A lot of the time that I wrote The Magic of Trees, I was in Missouri. I was in the countryside in Missouri for a short period in between Los Angeles and Colorado, but then also Colorado. So I was both in Missouri and Colorado, so I got a number of different trees to hang out with and work with. But I wanted to include, there's so important trees across the planet that I wanted to include trees that weren't in those areas, like the baobab tree that's in Africa. And there's a jabuticaba tree that's in South America. And so I didn't actually get to hang out with those trees, but I did look at pictures of them, and I did research them, and I did intuitively, remotely connect with their energy as I wrote about them.
And as you did that, could you feel as an intuitive that they do each have a different energetic imprint?
Oh, certainly. Yes, most definitely. And I did expect it to be like writing The Magic of Flowers, but it was not, because flowers are, so fleeting. The blossoms are, it's like they're there and then they're gone, and that's part of their charm. And trees are so ancient, so much more ancient than they live so much longer than we do. They've been here so much longer than we are. And so it was a very different type of experience. It was, I don't know how to describe it.
Would it be more of like a grounded ancient wisdom?
Yeah, it was where maybe the flowers were more conversational, sort of. It was like I just would meditate with them, and then it was all there. With the trees, it wasn't like it was hard to get to the information, but maybe it was a different, it was just a different type of energy I was tuning into, much, much more ancient.
And one of the other questions I was going to ask you too is do your books come, because you have quite a few books, they just come from within?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely research. The magic of trees demanded quite a bit of research, as you can see from the bibliography. But as far as the concepts for them and the flow of how they arrive, it definitely feels like I'm getting something down. You know, like I'm looking at this picture of this book that has arisen in my consciousness, and I'm translating it into words.
And that's how I receive, because I receive, I just call it divine inspiration. It's like, okay, that's the next project I'm supposed to birth. And I had a feeling just by seeing everything on your site and your blog, I go, that's how she received. I tell my clients, I receive, I trust, I birth.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like it's holding the space for it to
come through. Like I'm only the sacred container that's meant to birth it, but it's coming through me.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And I could feel that energy on your site. And that's why I was personally curious, because that's what I was feeling. And on your blog, I mean, you talk about cleansing. You have different categories: cleansing and clearing, feng shui, inspiration and motivation, magical living, spells and rituals. There's so much content here to help people discover the magic in their life. And that's what as I shared earlier, which I love about your brand and your message is it all resonates with truth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's just how it hits me. That's the energy that hits me when I interact with your stuff. And I wanted to share that with you, because I know even though I've supported you, this is our first time we've got to circle up together.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's such a compliment.
Well, you're welcome. So let's take another moment. We have another minute or two before we go to the final break. And I wanted to talk about what's going on with, do you have another book that's already being percolating?
Yes, I actually just sent in the first draft for a book that doesn't come out for another year, and we don't know what the title is yet, but I did write it.
Well, congratulations. And so you're someone that is always inspired, and I believe it's because you're always following the path of magic, following the breadcrumbs, trusting and allowing.
Yes, I believe that too. I think you know what it's like.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to jump to the last break, and we'll be back in a moment. I'm speaking today with Tess Whitehurst of TessWhitehurst.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you being called to step into your truth and embrace your divinity? Are you ready to align your heart and soul, live an authentic life, and become a divine magnet for love and abundance? It's time to listen to your inner wisdom and clear the blocks holding you back from your best life. Leading intuitive prosperity coach, Akashic Records practitioner, and evidential medium Jamie Hearn of LiveYourDivinity.com empowers and supports spiritual women like you to align your inner and outer worlds, embrace your soul's truth, and live your divinity. Through her intuitive gifts, grounded wisdom, and empowered coaching, Jamie guides women back into sacred alignment with their truth. Visit LiveYourDivinity.com to learn more about Jamie's empowering programs and to schedule an Akashic record reading.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Ladies, your story has the power to transform lives. 4-time best-selling boutique publishing company, Inspired Living Publishing, is dedicated to sharing women's stories of hope, love, and transformation with the intention to inspire and empower their readers to believe in the power of possibility. Share your story in an upcoming print or Kindle project. Visit inspiredlivingpublishing.com today. What if you could live the life of your dreams, the life that you came here to live? What if you were able to honor your gifts and passions, turn them into a heart-centered business, and make a big difference in the world, all while living authentically and doing the work you love? It is possible. Patricia Young, president and founder of InnerProsperityAcademy.com, knows that awakening to your own truth, aligning with your life purpose, and having your own business is one of the most exciting and courageous things you will ever do in your life. Patricia helps spiritual, sensitive, and growth-oriented women start, grow, or transition into a business they love so they can go from working for a paycheck to working for a mission. For supportive resources, programs, and more to help you do just that, visit InnerProsperityAcademy.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Feng Shui expert, intuitive counselor, and the award-winning author of 7 books, including Magical Housekeeping, The Good Energy Book, and The Magic of Trees, Tess Whitehurst. So, Tess, I love this idea of the Good Vibe Tribe that I mentioned when I first introduced you. So let's talk about that a little while. What led you to create it, and exactly what is it?
Well, it's an online school of magical arts. It has a number of online workshops, and also every Tuesday night we do live web chats. So like a little mini workshop every Tuesday night, and then self-guided online workshops for all number of magical skills and knowledge. And what led me to create it, it just had always been this idea that I had that I wanted to have online workshops and an online community. And luckily, a woman who used to work at my publisher and do the online stuff for Llewellyn Worldwide, she contacted me and said, now I know how to do online classes. If you still want to do that, let me know. And I was like, I do. So we created it together. And now we have over 100 people in it. We have a really active Facebook group that is really like the best place to go on the internet, in my opinion, because everyone is so positive and supportive, and so much magical knowledge and spiritual wisdom and inspiration being thrown around on that page. So yeah, that's what it is, and that's how I started it.
And I love the name, Good Vibe Tribe. You know, it just says what you bring to the table as the leader, but it also shows the group what you're looking for, what kind of energy you want.
Yeah, and I have been so grateful that I chose that name, or that name is what came through for it. It's like I waited until it clicked, because I do think it sets the tone to bring together an amazing group of people. We just had our first retreat. I hosted the first retreat I've ever hosted in the Rocky Mountains in June, and some members of the Good Vibe Tribe came. We had 9 women, and it was just such a positive energy in the group. And even the people at the retreat center remarked on what good energy everyone had in the group. So I'm really pleased with the name of it, and also the energy that's in it.
And I love that you're hosting retreats, so you have more of those coming up, in-person retreats?
I am going to do another one next year in June, so that is on the books.
I think that's great, because I have a large online community. We have 46,000 subscribers with Aspire and all my other brands. But prior to coming online, Aspire was a print magazine for 3.5 years in southern New England, and I used to produce live women's events that would attract 200 to 300 women, and they were spiritual, personal development, and I loved them. They were called back then Love, Light, and Laughter, enchanted events for women. And I loved it. It was day and a half. There would be a keynote. But the reason I bring that up is there was, as much as I loved serving through my magazine, because back then we'd print like 15,000 issues every 8 weeks, it fed my soul to produce those events and bring them together in person.
Yeah.
There was something.
Yeah, I had a similar experience.
Yeah. So I'm glad to see that you're going to be offering it, because they want that community, they want that connection, and of course they want you. So I love that you're going to be adding retreats.
The Good Vibe Tribe pushed the people in the Good Vibe Tribe told me they wanted it, and I was terrified. I don't think of myself as an event planner, but I could sense that it would be a good thing to do, and it was that kind of fear. When you have that kind of fear, that means that there's power there.
Oh yeah.
I'm afraid, but I also really want to do that. So that's why I had that little loving push.
Well, now just for reference for our listeners, what was the actual name of the retreat itself? I know what you call your tribe. Was the retreat called the Good Vibe Retreat or something else?
We called it the Good Vibe Tribe Magical Meetup.
Oh, I love it. I love that you tied magical in with it.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll keep that name. It was the first annual. It will still be the first annual. We'll do it. I'm thinking we'll do it annually, but I don't know if we'll keep that name.
Yeah, a great job, and it's so exciting, and it's got to be a beautiful time of year to head out that way.
Oh yeah, it was gorgeous. It was so pretty.
So tell us, if you had to pick, I have to ask this. If you had to pick your mind, what was your favorite book out of all the ones you wrote? The one that is personal to you, right? I know I have a favorite of all of mine that I've published. Is there one that speaks to you on a personal level?
I will say that Magical Fashionista was that one was pretty intense for me to write, and when I revisit it, I always love it and feel inspired by it. It isn't my most popular book, but it definitely was such a shift for me to learn that information and to share it that it will always have a special place in my heart, I think.
It's funny because that's how I first met you, was through that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so isn't it funny that that's the one? And I know it's like children, right, when you write or publish books. We don't want to say we have a favorite, but underneath we do. And it's usually not a favorite because of sales stats or anything like that.
Right.
It's something that transformed within us as we were writing it. And that one, I got to say, that one was really out of the box. No one else had ever written something like that.
Yeah, thank you. That was part of what I was so excited about, was when I had that idea and it was so exciting to me. I think that's always such a good sign when you're creating something, is it's something you would want to have and read, So, yeah.
Exactly. So you do a lot of radio shows, and how the heck did you get on the Bravo TV show Flipping Out? What led to that? Was it for your feng shui work?
Yeah, it's a good question, though. It felt sort of miraculous. I just had been doing feng shui in Los Angeles, and they wanted to have a feng shui consultant come in and help Jeff out and be on the show. And I guess from talking to his assistant, I was the one who they decided to hire.
So what was the experience like?
Oh, it was cool. It was interesting. I had never seen the show. I didn't really know what to expect, so I just did my best to do a good feng shui consultation. and it was fun. It was really interesting.
And so that I always look at when sometimes things come our way that we can never plan or ask for, but that must have been really helpful for your brand too, because it shined a spotlight on your services and what you do.
Yeah, it was. It just seemed like it helped me out a lot as far as people knowing about what I did.
And one of the things in feng shui that I constantly keep in my awareness is clutter clearing. Yeah. So in many of your books you talk about clutter clearing. Why do you believe it's so important?
Well, so the magical spiritual path, all sort of mystical spiritual paths, it's important to think about the physical world and the spiritual world as not being separate. They're the same. So to me, clutter clearing is powerful because it reminds us of the effect of the physical world. It's a way of feng shui in general, but clutter clearing especially for clarifying our minds, clarifying our intentions, and cleaning up our energy field. It's like when you release all of the things that you don't love or use or need, those things are no longer draining your energy, because it's like you can think of everything you own as being attached to you with a cord of energy. And you can think of those things as either taking energy from you or giving you energy. Like Marie Kondo talks about in the life-changing magic of tidying up. Does it spark joy? If it doesn't spark joy, it's draining your energy. So it's a very powerful act, and it's so simple. I love that about it too. I love that it's so simple. It's not like you have to do tons of therapy or do any sort of elaborate ritual. You just look at the stuff that you don't love and you donate it, and then you transmute so much stuck energy and you open up your life path to so much positive flow.
There's something I think I read on your blog that said if it when clutter clearing, and I may be paraphrasing here, look at it, and if it doesn't bring you joy, let it go.
Yeah, and in Magical Housekeeping, I talked about that you can actually touch the things. You can hold them and feel. Do you feel like it's energizing you, or do you feel kind of how you feel? Then you can know. You can know if it's clutter or not.
So in that book, you share a lot of ways that you share on clutter clearing, but you also give tips, right, in regard to feng shui, etc.?
Yeah, in that book, the first chapter is about clutter clearing, and it's very thorough because I talk about clutter not just in your house, but in your mind, body, spirit, and emotions as well. And then I talk about cleaning magically and with intention, space clearing, sage and bells and clapping and just getting the energy clear. And then feng shui tips, really simple and intuitive feng shui tips. I'm really big on intuitive. If it doesn't really make sense to you or click with you, there's really no point, is my opinion about feng shui.
I love that. It's really learning how to trust what you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you,
tuning. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I could keep talking to you all day.
Oh, same. I love talking to you. This is so fun.
Well, I want to encourage everyone to visit TessWhitehurst.com to learn more about all her books, her Good Vibe Tribe, and everything else she's up to. And I got to tell you, you'll find some amazing blog posts that I was just shared with Tess before we came on the air that I'm like, oh, my God, I got to share that with my friends. So visit TessWhitehurst.com and tap into her magic. Tess, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I truly appreciate being able to share space with you, share your wisdom with my audience. And everyone, until next time, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. I'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for the Inspired Conversation Show. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.